Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hello and welcome to The Print. The COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent 2-month lockdown brought economic activity to a complete halt in India. Due to this, the Indian economy is expected to contract by at least 5 to 12% in 2020-21. At The Print, we bring you conversations with senior industry leaders on the impact of the pandemic and the way forward. Today, we have with us Ms. Sunita Reddy, Managing Director of Apollo Hospitals Group, a leading healthcare service provider in India. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Ramya. Nice to be with you.
Thank you so much for taking out time, ma'am, and speaking with us. Ma'am, I wanted to begin by asking you what is the impact of the pandemic on the healthcare sector.
So, without really talking about revenues, let me say this: that the pandemic, because it was something very new, it brought life to a standstill. And for the first 10 days, it was all about assimilating what the pandemic was. And for a healthcare institution, what is really important is for us to know how to deal with it. So in terms of how do you ready infrastructure, how do you get clinical protocols in place, how do you do the testing? These are the three big things that came to our mind. So that became the focus. And as we finish one quarter of it, we've understood one thing, that this time that we've had during the lockdown has helped us to prepare for this. Because I think many countries were taken unaware. If you look at the statistics of the European countries, or for New York, for example, the death rate was really huge. It was tremendous. It was at about in excess of 5%. But if you look at India and if you look at the clinical outcomes, our clinical outcomes, thankfully, are much better. And I think it's better because we instituted the lockdown efficiently and we did it early. So it gave us time to prepare in terms of clinical management of the pandemic.
Right, ma'am. But are you seeing patients waiting for, opting for pre-planned medical procedures? On one hand, you will obviously see more people getting admitted due to COVID, but on the other hand, are you also seeing people putting such decisions on hold?
Yes, I think in the initial, 60 days, they were told not to plan elective procedures. And this was part of the Prime Minister's announcement. So definitely, people did postpone elective procedures. Post that, people have started coming back for elective procedures. But being in the healthcare industry, we are we're very prepared for all sorts of emergencies. So it's not like the hospital shut down, like a lot of industry had to really shut down. But right. We had to be working much, much harder because we had the hospitals were open. We were open for patients 24/7, 30 days a month. We were completely open, and our pharmacies, which is a big part of Apollo, were there even during lockdown, and they had to be able to deliver prescriptions during this time. Right. So it was unlike most industries. Healthcare was on call, open during the lockdown and during the pandemic. It continues to, we continue to see a large number of patients coming to us again.
Ma'am, how are you managing logistics and manpower during this time?
So yes, managing logistics and manpower is a challenge. For the pharmacy, it was all about logistics. It was keeping their supply chain intact, which is a learning for all those who go through these difficult periods. How do you keep your supply chain intact? How do you stock efficiently and prepare for the lockdown? And I think, we've benefited from that being handled very efficiently by the team. The second part of it is manpower. Manpower for COVID has to be planned completely differently. And this was our learning that, you actually need more than double the number of nursing and doctors that you would require normally to run a hospital for COVID. And this really, it reflects in the cost, it reflects in the way you plan for it, and it's a learning that we now have, and we're balancing out the regular surgeries with the COVID patients. So yes, we're coming to work, prepared for the new normal.
Right. Do you think the pandemic has exposed the lack of India's health infrastructure?
We've always said that the demand supply gap in India was huge. And I
Right.
don't think we're moving away from that. That the fundamental demand supply gap, whether it was to treat NCDs or whether it was to treat these airborne infections, it was, substantially lower than in any other country. And so has been government spending at 1% of GDP. Most of the spending happened in the private sector. So if you look at spending on healthcare, about 70% was private spending on healthcare. And if you look at private spending on creating healthcare infrastructure, 80% of healthcare infrastructure has been created by the private sector. So, we've continuously asked the government to help us with this. We said there is a huge demand for healthcare. Help us create an environment that will facilitate additional investment into healthcare infrastructure. And I think Apollo was among the few companies that actually created 2,000 beds in the past 3 years when everything was going slow.
Right. You talked about how the industry has been asking the government for better infrastructure, but on the government announced a 21 lakh crore economic package, but surprisingly there was hardly anything for the health sector, which is at the forefront of this whole battle.
Yes, it was to our surprise as well. We hope that going forward, that this is a continuous journey. We are hopeful that we will be able to work with the government, so that we'll be prepared. Because I don't believe this pandemic, that we're seeing the end of pandemics with COVID. Let's learn from a country like Japan. Look at how well they handled it. They took the simple things. It's the most populated city in the world, Tokyo. If you look at it, is densely populated, and still, if you look at the management of COVID, it was testing. It was all about wearing masks and social distancing. So
Right.
these are lessons that we can learn. And having said that, I have to say that I think even in Maharashtra, the Dharavi slum now will be a case study of sorts for how India handled vertical living, and that amount of people living in the slum area.
What do you think went wrong in cities like Delhi and Mumbai? As in, obviously, yes, density of population is one thing, but again, both these states had at least a 2-month period to prepare for the unlock phase.
Yeah, I think, I believe they were prepared, because they alerted the private sector, they made their beds ready. What really caught people unaware were three incidences. One was everyone knows about the meeting of the Tablighi, which no one knew the impact of that. I think the second was in Chennai. We saw a lot of people, the markets, people not recognizing the importance of social distancing. And that was a key learning from Japan, that if we had observed social distancing, worn masks, we would not have seen the spread that we're seeing in Chennai. So no amount of testing can make up for that, or no amount of beds can be created really for a population that is not following the basic protocol.
Right. So, ma'am, on one side, there's also the industry which is saying that, they want to voluntarily test their employees so that, they can bring them back on the factory shop floors. Is that a good idea? Can can India do that?
If you had a different type of test, yes, but this is very difficult, because you would have to test them every 5 days. The key thing about testing is that you have to manage their lives in the 24-hour life cycle from one testing to the other. So that's almost impossible to do. So you can't, unless you're testing them every 5 days or you're prescribing what they have to be doing after hours. It's very, very difficult to do testing on shop floors.
Okay, okay. Ma'am, coming to Apollo, what's your plan forward? Will we see you expanding into more cities, or will it be more consolidation going forward? Especially given these times,
Right now, we are consolidating. And I think what we are really focused on is our digital push. So we're moving healthcare away from physical infrastructure, we're taking it to the home. We've done that by the launch of our app 24 by 7, and which had, by the way, 11 million downloads. So in 60 days, we got 11 million new customers, or some of them patients for Apollo. For Apollo teleconsults, we're doing about 1,000 teleconsults a day. We are delivering pharmacy prescriptions at home, and we're trying to bring them into the hospital premises for testing. So this is working out really well, and it's been a learning for us that we were always last year we were getting prepared for the digital, and I think this was a very appropriate time to launch this product. But I think the future of healthcare is clearly in digital, in moving into people's homes. Apollo did that through telemedicine. It did that to the home care, and we're aggressively pursuing that because I believe that the fundamental of home care is that as we go into, as the pandemic worsens, people will be afraid to bring out the vulnerable population into public spaces. So we want to take home nursing, home care, and teleconsults into the home. And we are doing this, and probably will be the only pan India player to do this successfully. So this is where we're positioning ourselves. Let's use our infrastructure, but let's use our manpower also, our skilled manpower, which we have about 80,000 people on our payroll. So let's use this well and position ourselves as the best player in home care.
Right. Now, you also exited the insurance business last year. Are there any more such non-core businesses that you have identified going ahead?
See, in a way, insurance was not non-core; it was related to health.
Yes.
And clearly, it's an industry that is a sunrise industry.
Right.
So I think, we have very many valuable assets within Apollo. And, the right time we look at how to create value. But our focus right now is on digital. How shall we build digital? And because without it, you can't, there has to be a virtual Apollo along with the Apollo that talks about infrastructure.
Right. And also, I wanted to understand, banks talk about how there's so much risk aversion among businesses because of which they're not borrowing. What is this? What is your view on this, and what is Apollo stand in this?
I think banks understand that demand and consumption is very low. So therefore, corporates are borrowing less. For us, we look at, if you look at cost of capital today from the banks, it's 7.1%. So post-tax, it would be something around 5%. So clearly, capital is not expensive. Demand for healthcare will continue to exist. So we are really balancing out, the amount of cash we require, especially for this year. Having said that, I must put a disclaimer and say we are being careful, conservative this year because, we are very cognizant of cash flows, etc. And we are on a plan to do significant cost cutting so that we retain margins. So it's very important that people balance out future opportunity with the amount of capital and the cost of capital. And this is what they're seeing from industry. I'm sure that, demand will pick up, but there's also underutilized capacity. And people are pushing for greater utilization of capacity right now.
So, ma'am, the next 1 year will be difficult, or when do you think things will start looking up for the economy as a whole?
I think, I mean, for healthcare, for sure, it will start picking up post December. It will, it's how we balance the virus and how we look after the virus and how we handle the rest because it doesn't go away. Sickness doesn't go away. But I'm sure that industry will get back on its feet within the next 24 months.
And
And many are already doing so.
okay, and it doesn't necessarily have to wait for a vaccine to come in.
Vaccine will come in. I think they said by January we should have something of a vaccine. So, I mean, that will help. From January onwards, people will be out there. They'll be traveling. They'll be moving around, and definitely once they know that their salaries are intact. So I think jobs, uh, the ability to create demand for products, watch consumption, that is a big story, and that is what we need to track.
Right. Also, what is from a healthcare sector point of view? What are your demands from the government?
So our demand is that now more than ever, we need to be given the impetus that was given for the IT industry many years ago, where they gave it, they gave tax holidays, they gave it land free of cost, infrastructure status, and look at it today. It's Indian IT is respected worldwide. And we believe that Indian healthcare should rightly get that position. One, because we serve the local market and we're critical for the growth of India as a country for our GDP. Because for every dollar you spend on healthcare or every job you create, there are four other jobs you create outside. So the socio-economic impact of healthcare is so strong that the government needs to recognize this and give us, the incentive to grow. And second, it's also an opportunity, an international opportunity for India here because we are delivering value at 1/10 of the cost. So people come to us because we're able to do it at 1/10 of the cost, with the clinical outcome being, uncompromised and maybe better than in other places in the world. So clearly another opportunity for Indian healthcare. Not only are we serving local markets, but we are serving international markets. And this is probably the opportunity. They always say a crisis brings out an opportunity, and why waste an opportunity? So the opportunity in healthcare is clearly how do we amplify, the ability of Indian healthcare by creating more infrastructure. How do we do so by incentivizing Indian healthcare? And also, along the value chain in manufacturing and in skilling, there's huge opportunities for healthcare.
Right. You talked about, what about, ma'am? How has the medical tourism been impacted? And when do you see it again reviving?
I think, there's a correlation between all tourism, civil aviation, and medical tourism, and that's how you need to look at it.
Ma'am, also, there's this whole talk of making India self-reliant. So I wanted your perspective on, where are we in terms of medical, or how dependent is India on imports for medical equipment and for medicines?
If you just look at the pandemic, for example, when we heard about it happening in March, we imported everything, PPEs, everything. Today, we're an exporter of PPEs. So definitely there is an opportunity in medical manufacturing. And in India, there is the talent to do so. I believe that we also have the raw materials. And I think even with the pharmaceuticals, they did import part of their APIs from China. And there should be a period where we collaborate so that, that the most important thing is intellectual capital. The second is that the raw material, and I spoke about, supply chain. So without too much disruption in the supply chain, we should be able to handle the manufacturing. And third, create the opportunity to export.
Right, but do we produce all medical equipment here? As in, what percentage do we have to import?
So the very high end is what we're importing now,
Okay.
and we're improving. As you know, ventilators. Suddenly, car manufacturers got into ventilator manufacturing. So yes, indigenous. This is the best example of jugaad that you can ever hope to see.
Right. But is it a good idea to raise import duties, especially when, that kind of a domestic capability may have not been yet established?
I think right now it's not a good idea to do anything like that because there's still some amount of reliance not just on China but on the rest of the world, especially where healthcare is concerned. And we've already faced a double whammy where there was an increase of 5% and then the depreciation of the rupee. So that made imports and some of the consumables more expensive. So this is probably not the right time to think about that.
Right. Ma'am, and my last question, do you see more consolidation going ahead in the hospital industry space or in the healthcare provider service space?
Um, I believe that there's an important opportunity out there. Those who have very strong fundamentals, who have very good management, and who have great doctors have the ability to capture this moment. Whether it's through consolidation or whether it's through creating a few more PPPs with the government. Today, there is a great opportunity for healthcare, and there are different ways of really defining success based on these opportunities. And consolidation is one of them. Definitely something that players are looking at, but working with the government in PPs, improving our, like I said, our digital is clearly another opportunity.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, just a clarification, how much of this public-private partnership does happen in healthcare? As in,
So we have three very visible examples that have worked out well. One is with the Delhi government, which is our Indraprastha Hospital,
okay.
which is a 700-bed hospital in Delhi. The second is in Bilaspur, where we have with Coal India, a joint venture where they provided the infrastructure, but the land, and we did the rest. The third is what we've done in Chittoor with the medical college, where we took over the government hospital, and the medical college handled the hospital. So we were able to add on more seats, and we looked after the clinical work, the infrastructure at the hospital in Chittoor. So yes, we've done that very successfully, and I do believe it is an opportunity for the future.
Right. And in terms of like hospital buildings and land would be your major fixed cost, right?
Yes, I think most of the costs today go on land and buildings. So if the government were to come forward with, with opportunities where they cover the cost of land and building and also do some funding for the first cash funding for the first 3 years, it would work.
Okay, the project would become viable because of that.
Yes, they have to do the first 3 years of cash loss funding because, I'm quite sure this is not going to play out in urban areas. They'll come to us with more in tier 2 and tier 3 and the ability to pay there. If it's tier 3, the ability to pay will be different.
Right. Ma'am, just, since you talked about paying, there's this whole thing on how the governments are now regulating the costs of hospital beds, ICU beds. Do you think that's a good idea to capping charges of beds in ICU beds?
No, I don't think it's a good idea. And the reason I say this, and that's very important, is that when the cure protocols are not yet defined, you can't cap a cost because you don't know how much cost goes to each patient. And really, while treating COVID, if we were just to say that, we're treating something like a flu that requires, say, hydroxychloroquine or paracetamol, it's fine. But here we are treating patients with underlying comorbidities. And it would be very unfair to put a cap on a price. And therefore, I don't want doctors to be thinking of what is the cost of the treatment. I want doctors to be delivering the best treatment for the patient. And really, we are focused on the best clinical outcomes. So I don't think, we should be thinking about price caps.
But is it something that the industry has?
Especially when many of our patients can afford to pay. They're either covered by insurance or they're the middle class, and they've kept aside money for such events. So they can afford to pay. The hospitals can ill afford to lose more money at this time. So it really doesn't make sense to me unless it's something that's really sensible.
But is it something that the industry has taken up with the government?
Yes, I believe they have. Through the different associations.
Right. Okay. But do you expect a positive outcome from this? Because it seems to be more a populist move at this point.
I don't think India should be governed by an exception. It should. This is my feeling, and I think we've got associations to represent us. I cannot talk about populism because I am very grounded in reality. And being in the hospital sector, you have to be grounded in reality. So we do what's right for our patient. And the cost of it is very transparent. That is the most important thing to know.
Right, ma'am. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramya.